So the Angry Birds movie 2. Angry Birds movie. Okay, but before we get into the film, can I just say that the screening that I went to of this, it was at the Alamo Draft House, and they had a special Sunday screening for kids and families to go see this film, and they had an all you could eat cereal breakfast bar, and it was amazing. They had every cereal present there, every single cereal imaginable. They had many wheats, they had all kinds of Cheerios. They tried chocolate Cheerios for the first time. They had milk. And while the families were coming in enjoying the cereal, the draft house was playing all these, like clips of like Bollywood and classic kids film trailers and kids commercials, stuff like that. Oh, that was so much fun. I gotta give it up to the draft house. They did a good job presenting this film. Okay, so the Angry Birds movie 2 is well, actually, but before we get to that, I gotta mention there was a great short that they had before this film. Not from the Draft House, but from Sony themselves. Sony placed an animated short in front of the Angry Birds movie 2, and it's this great little short called Hair, which is about this little girl trying to do up her hair in the morning, and she's only got to rely on her dad, and her dad's not that great at it. So dad's struggling to try to figure out how to do her hair just right so that they can be in time to go see mom. And the way that this short is assembled, it was apparently assembled with some Kickstarter backing, and it's very sweet. It's got this very personal edge to it, and it's very funny. It's very charming, and it's super adorable. I love this short. I think it's definitely going to be, if not a winner for the best animated short this year at the Oscars, it's definitely going to be nominated for sure. That I really enjoyed that short. It was a lot of fun. So the Angry Birds movie 2 is the interesting thing is that with the Angry Birds for the first film, they actually spent $300 million on their marketing budget, which is not normal for a film based. Oh, okay, all right. I'm sorry. I've been holding off trying to not talk about this film, and it's not because the Angry Birds movie 2 is bad. It's not bad. I mean, I just checked on the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing. They said it was probably the best reviewed video game movie ever made, and it's in comparison to the first film, it really isn't that bad. It's actually quite good, actually, when you compare it to the first film. And I think because I really didn't like the first film because my main gripe with it was that it started off as kind of this interesting commentary on coming to terms with anger in a society that really doesn't value it. And then by the end of the film, it descends into Despicable Me style chaos with just birds battling pigs, and it's just mindless mayhem by the end. The Angry Birds 2 is a little bit more forgivable because it never makes such promises. It's not like it sets up anything here and then dashes your hopes later. It makes itself pretty clear what this type of film is supposed to be about, and it's just supposed to be a very simple, mindless adventure with some goofy gags along the way. More akin to what what Minions was. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious that the first Angry Birds film was trying to be Minions with the pigs and all the puns and all the dancing and stuff like that. This film feels a little bit less derivative in that sense. It's just that the comedy itself didn't really do that much for me. To its credit, though, they do quite a bit more with the characters. I like the fact how the film begins with the war between the pigs and the birds still going on, and Red, the lead bird here with the big eyebrows, voiced by Jason Sudeikis, is kind of loving it. It's kind of before he was kind of a social misfit. Nobody really liked him being angry, and nobody really appreciated him. He didn't really feel like he had a place in society. And now he's kind of seen as the hero, the one who's constantly relied upon to defend their island from the pigs constantly launching projectiles at them. But then he fears that this might be coming to an end because the pigs and the birds now have a common enemy with a new island that's apparently not too far away that they didn't know about, which is an island of eagles, which is basically an icy tundra. Now, the Eagles are launching giant ice boulders at both islands because they want to conquer both islands. Because the Eagles are essentially fed up of living in an icy environment. Everything about it sucks. Their pools are frozen over. Everything is frozen food, and they make all the obvious puns, stuff like that. But it's mostly because the Eagles are led by by this giant purple eagle called Zeta, who kind of has like a bit of a past, a tragic romantic past, and she basically wants to lash out at the world. I gotta mention this, the design of Zeta, she's voiced by Leslie Jones, who does a great voice for this type of character. I gotta say, I really do love the character design of Zeta. I mean, I could not get enough of this character. I love the way she has these giant purple feathers, and there's this huge beak and eyes, and these long arms. It kind of reminded me of like a Jim Henson creation. In comparison to like the very simplistic design of the pigs and somewhat simplistic design of the birds, the eagles are actually a lot of fun to watch. I do like their designs here. Now, essentially, the birds and pigs form a truce, and they've got to fight back against the eagles, so they got to infiltrate their volcano lair. So it's essentially, you're going to be getting a James Bond parody here. But we do get a little bit of character development here from a couple of the characters. We do have Chuck, the super fast bird. He's voiced by Josh Gad once more, and he has a super smart scientist sister that he wants to bring along on the mission. She is, I believe, she's called Silver. She's voiced by Rachel Bloom, and essentially, Chuck is concerned that Red might be trying to date his sister. So throughout the whole film, he's constantly in a state of, don't get close to my sister. Don't get that near to her. At the same time, Silver is trying to prove herself because society doesn't value her as much. She's super smart. She has all these great ideas. She knows all about physics, so she could be very handy in stopping a volcano lair from launching what are essentially icy lava balls onto the island. So she plays a bigger role. Even the character of Mighty Eagle, voiced once more by Peter Dinklage, who was kind of like the fraud hero from the first film. Even he has like a little bit more backstory. We get to know a little bit about him and kind of sympathize with him a little bit. The problem is, though, and this is like the huge problem with this film, is that it has too much going on to appreciate these little elements. Even the whole James Bond aspect of like breaking into the volcano base with all like the goofy gadgets and stuff like that, and little montages to Mission Impossible. It's hard to enjoy that type of stuff because there's too many characters here. There's too much going on. I mean, how many characters do we have? We got Red, we got Chuck, we got Zeta, we got the pigs, we have like the supporting pig characters, we have supporting eagle characters. I mean, I'm just looking at the cast list here. This is an insanely huge list. We have Jason Sudeikis, Josh Gad, Leslie Jones, Bill Hader, Rachel Bloom, Awkwafina, Sterling K. Brown, Danny McBride, Peter Dinklage, Nolan North, Tony Hale. It just goes on and on and on and on. And the thing is, so much is happening that it's hard that we don't get a chance to get to know the plight of these characters. It just feels like it's kind of like, anytime there's like a slow moment, you're trying to be a moment that focuses more on like the characters and their inner emotions and their problems and things they have to come to terms with. It just kind of feels like croutons in between all these other, like bigger and louder and, simpler gags. Like I said, though, that's to the film's credit because it's not promising anything that deeper than that. I mean, don't get me wrong. It does have a good message about, togetherness and, trying to come to terms with each other and not trying to, always fight each other and just, try to bring everyone one together and be inclusive. That's a great message. It's a good message for kids. And I'm glad the film got it in there, but you really get, it doesn't come across as great because like I said, there's too much else going on, way too much going on. So much, in fact, that there's a subplot, a simpler subplot of some bird kids trying to save some eggs, that like little baby bird eggs, in a kind of like a classic Looney Tunes type short. Like, it's diced up throughout the film. You could probably put it all together and have a really cute little 8-minute short. And that was cute. I did love the fact that it was shooting for, and I mentioned this in my review, it's shooting for simpler targets. This film is not promising anything that big past a pretty standard adventure, with some expected gags. I mean, they do have a lot of like potty humor here that a lot of kids are gonna dig. Most of that has been retained from the last film. There's a whole bunch of like urine jokes. I mean, there's a whole sequence in a to There's a breakdancing joke. There's even a Baby Shark quote, to be relatable, for the kids. Um, it just feels so. I don't want to say like innocuous, but it's like it just feels kind of passive with this. It feels like something that would have been interesting kind of to see on like like a Saturday morning cartoon show. Where it's got some decent messages in there, but it's in between all these kind of like like simpler gags. Like there's not a whole lot of stuff that adults are gonna look at the screen and kind of go like, yeah, I get that. There might be like one or two, but it's mostly gonna be for the kids because it's mostly slapstick and potty humor and kind of like that stumbling dialogue that we had in like the first film. But I'm at least grateful that the film really doesn't set up stuff that it doesn't deliver on, and I guess that's a good part of the film. It does have a decent message, and it doesn't really allude to anything bigger that it's clearly not going to be delivering on. So, I mean that's the best I can say for the film. But other than that, I had like a few smiles here and there. I liked the character of Zeta. I wish there was a little bit more to her. I mean, there is an interesting backstory to her, but it feels kind of bookended by a whole bunch of other stuff in the film. So it's a very crowded film, but every now and then it did kind of break through. I'm like, okay, if I were a kid, I would probably really dig this film. So I'm trying to look at this from like the kids' perspective, because a lot of the kids were kind of digging this. They were laughing pretty hard at a few scenes, especially the bathroom sequence where all the characters are in kind of like a classic cartoon setup of all them being in like this giant eagle outfit, and then they have to steal a guard's key card and hijinks ensue in the bathroom. So what can I say? It's pretty much as advertised. It's not a terrible film by any means, but it's such a passive film that for kids, I imagine there's quite a bit here, but as an adult, I'm just kind of like, okay, it's going about the motions. It's all right, but there's nothing here that I'm going to want to come rushing back to see again. So, for the Angry Birds movie 2, 2.5 out of 5 stars.